Okay. I think we're good. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to our webinar, Farmers Markets Adopt WIC Technology and Stand Up to COVID. I'm Sarah Diaz from the California WIC Association, and I am your moderator today. And joining me is our Executive Director, Karen Farley. This is our third webinar in a series focusing on accessing fruits and vegetables. We're continuing education for registered nurses, IBCLCs, and registered dietitians. Tomorrow you should receive an email from us with a link to the evaluation and the recording. And after you complete your evaluation, you will automatically receive your certificate of attendance. So a few housekeeping things. This webinar is being recorded and, like I said, should be available tomorrow in an email. Please submit your questions in the Q&A function, and you have the ability to like questions, other people's questions, which will elevate the most liked questions to the top of the list. So hopefully, if other people have that same question, then we'll be, it'll show that and be the first to be answered. We will try to address as many of the questions as we can at the end of the presentation. To have the best viewing experience today, please put your view in speaker view. The option is included on the top right-hand corner of your screen. So I will turn it over to Karen.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks to our presenters for being with us. We're really pleased to have representatives from the California State staff and San Francisco WIC staff today. Speaking to us first is Paula Griffin. She's the Chief of Farmers Markets and Local Vendor Liaisons at the state. During her career, she's filled many leadership roles as a public health nutritionist, both at the state and the local levels, addressing obesity prevention, ensuring breastfeeding support, including for peer counselors, and more recently in her role with farmers and farmers markets across California. After Paula, we're going to hear from Grethel and Janice from San Francisco WIC. Grethel Pallavicini is a registered dietitian with experience working in a few California WIC agencies, and she has a keen interest in addressing food insecurity, which you'll hear about today. And Janice Lee has been working with the San Francisco Department of Public Health for 19 years in many roles, and she really appreciates her opportunities to connect families and resources. Currently, she's a WIC nutrition assistant, local vendor liaison, and outreach and farmers market coordinator. It's a lot of hats to roll. Thank you for being with us today. And now I have the pleasure of turning the presentation over to Paula.
Hi, everyone. Can you see me? Can you see my screen?
We cannot see your screen yet.
Okay. Can you see me?
No.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Oh, good. We're making progress. All right. Let's see. Well, I'm here to talk today about the California WIC program and how we have really come on board with some of the technology for the new things happening at the farmers market. What you have in front of you is just our title slide, but I'm going to try to advance to the next slide to talk about a little bit about the programs that we have had in place at the farmers markets through WIC and the history and what we are planning to do in the future. So at the end of this presentation, you'll be able to learn a little bit about the history of the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program and the new cash value voucher program in California, and how we have been able to authorize farmers for the cash value benefit on the WIC card, and where that's going in the future with the CVV transactions. That's the new electronic WIC card. So just a little bit of history about the Farmers Market Nutrition Program. It's been around since 1992 when Congress established it to provide fresh, unprepared, locally grown fruits and vegetables to WIC participants. And it was also established to expand the awareness, use of, and sales for the public at farmers markets. So it really was a program dedicated just to expand farmers markets. It operates currently in 49 states. It's grant awarded to various state agencies, territories, and intertribal organizations throughout the United States and the islands. And it's usually administered within a state or territory by the health department, but it can also be run by the state agricultural department. And California, we believe, first received the grant in 1997, and we've operated it continuously ever since. It's hard to go back really to find records before that because we usually typically look at our emails. And I did find some documentation that we had the grant in 1997. Of course, that was before my time. And it's been traditionally a paper check benefit program distributed once per year through our WIC local agencies in the springtime, usually May or June, and they're available for use by the WIC shoppers through November. And historically, the checks have been in small increments ranging from $1 to $5. However, this year we did increase the increment to a $7 per check, and that means the booklet is a $28 benefit. And that is the first time since we've had the program that it's actually been increased that much. And so then moving on into 2010, which has already been 10 years, it's hard to believe, with the food package change, the WIC received the cash value voucher for fruits and vegetables, and this was still in the form of a paper check and used at grocery stores primarily, and these were in increments of $4, $9, and $11. Well, we started to authorize farmers and farmers markets for this in 2010 after the food package had rolled out to grocery stores in 2009, and we started to authorize farmers and markets for this, and it became fairly successful, we think. We never put a huge dent into the grocer business, of course, but it was another avenue for our WIC shoppers to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables. And then most recently in June 2019, of course, the WIC paper food checks transitioned to an electronic card, also known as the WIC card, in the phased implementation throughout California. So our goals were by the March 2020, all staff in the state, all WIC staff would be trained in the new procedures and the new, of course, management information system called WIC-Wise. And all of the sites would be equipped to transact the WIC card. And so that was the overall statewide goal. Of course, within the vendor community, our goal was to have all WIC authorized grocer vendors enabled to successfully transact the WIC card. And this is by August 1st, which is just around the corner. And that's 3,800 grocers. And we have met that goal. All of our grocers have been enabled to successfully transact the WIC card either through an integrated cash register system or a stand-beside device. However, farmers and farmers markets were not automatically included in that rollout. So there was no mandate that every farmer and farmers market who was authorized in California had to become enabled. It was kind of an optional choice. So California had that choice. Would we be one of the few states in the U.S. to train and authorize farmers or farmers markets to accept the cash value benefit on the WIC card? That was the big question, because it may seem like a no-brainer to people that support farmers and farmers markets, but it really has not been a ubiquitous solution for many states. There are very few states that have implemented farmers with the WIC card. Maryland comes to mind, and maybe a few others, but very few. It's not normally done. So we wanted to put our efforts into that. We thought it was a good thing to do, good thing to put our efforts into, because we are an agriculturally focused state. So then we had the choice of, should we authorize farmers or farmers markets? There's two different ways you can do it, or you can do both, but there are some advantages and disadvantages to both. Advantages to authorizing farmers, of course, is that the farmer directly, as a businessman, will receive his payment, his or her payment, directly into the bank account. And that is the electronic benefit that comes from directly from the participant's card right into the bank account. And the shopper can also purchase smaller amounts of fruits and vegetables with the WIC card, versus when it was the paper fruit and vegetable check in an increment of $9 or $11, they had to use the whole benefit with one farmer. And we know that sometimes was not convenient for the WIC shopper. So a shopper could buy a $2 basket of cherries from a farmer and call it a day, and then go on to the next farmer if she wanted to. So the disadvantage to authorizing a farmer directly, that because farmers in many of our larger markets sell at multiple markets each day or week, they send their staff out to multiple markets. We were only able to provide one wireless terminal, unfortunately, at no cost to the farmer prior to statewide implementation. And so that was kind of off-putting to some farmers who felt like they needed 10 or 15 wireless terminals in order to really, accept WIC. Another disadvantage was a farmer may only have a short selling season. He may only, for example, have asparagus or cherries, and that's a very short growing season, and he won't be available year-round to use his machine. And also, it's very difficult, we have found, to be able to tell a WIC shopper where that farmer is taking his machine. So we've had to really try to nail that down so we could give accurate information on where a WIC shopper could go, which market that farmer is at on a certain day with his machine charged up and ready to go. Then we also considered authorizing farmers markets, and that's something that has a lot of interest in the state of California, because market managers are typically ones that are operating wireless terminals already for transacting the CalFresh benefit. And markets have been used to accepting market match and other incentive program money grants. So they're used to a little bit more paperwork that they might have to also do with the WIC program. And markets generally have more infrastructure and help on their staff in order to run transactions. So that was a very enticing opportunity as far as getting markets on board, because there could probably be a little more traction with our machines. However, one of the disadvantages is that there's more than one disadvantage, but really it's adding a little more paperwork to the market manager who's already perhaps doing a lot of work for Market Match or other grant programs, because there's some additional documentation and tracking to find out which of the individual farmers actually use the card with the market. And then, of course, the WIC shopper would require a little more intensive education, we feel, on how to use the WIC card at the market level versus just handing the card right directly over to the farmer for purchase. So we came up with those. What we started to do is we decided to go, based on USDA's recommendation, is to start with farmers. And so we began in the spring of 2019 to communicate with farmers, how to receive a wireless terminal. They had to meet our authorization criteria. They had to be a real farmer, have a producer certificate, and they had to sell at WIC authorized farmers markets. And so by the early part of last spring, we had identified about 120 farmers who seemed like good candidates to receive a stand-beside wireless terminal to process the cash value benefit. And as I mentioned before, we were only able to provide one terminal at no cost to the farmer. And so then we worked with our state contractor, Fidelity Information Services, in order to get that farmer onboarded, if you will. The farmer had to complete a WIC agreement for the card, and he had to complete something called a merchant agreement, and that went to FIS, and that's really to get the machine, the wireless agreement. And then they would receive a wireless terminal from FIS. And at the same time, FIS would send instructions to the farmer with the information how to get on the machine and how to activate it, would receive a phone training. And then after that training, the farmer is authorized to accept the WIC card. During that training session, the farmer was basically brought through how to do a balance inquiry, how to void, and how to do a purchase. So all the things that we would expect him or her to be able to do when a WIC shopper is in front of them. So this is exciting as of July 2020, and I just got this confirmation yesterday. We have 67 farmers who are actually completed everything they needed to do to become authorized to accept the WIC card. Only 20 of them are actively redeeming right now, so we're hoping to bring that up to have everyone with the machine actively redeeming. But right now, we're about $3,000 have been spent with farmers running the cash value benefits, and most of those have happened. Most of that amount, 27, almost 2,800, has been transacted between January and July. So that's very exciting. We had a little slow start in 2019, but even with some of the COVID-19 closures, we've picked up some steam this year. And after the summer, and so going into fall, the Department of Public Health, WIC, will submit another proposal to USDA for an expansion pilot using markets and a centralized transaction model. So that'll be very exciting. That will help expand the program, we feel. So a little bit about what, probably many of you are quite aware of during COVID-19. There has been some setbacks, but most of our markets, I believe, have reopened with some of the modifications here you can see on the slide to help with social distancing. Many have suspended sampling and craft vendors in order to be deemed an essential service. So you'll see that most of our markets, except the ones perhaps on hospital grounds or school campuses, have reopened. That's very exciting. So what's going to happen in the future? We think there is a lot of ground to expand the program. We have right now, for just the Farmers Market Nutrition Program purposes, over 400 farmers markets and over 1,000 farmers are authorized. And so potentially they can become authorized for the cash value benefit on the WIC card. However, they will have to pay for their own certified system and the equipment to conduct the WIC card transaction. So that could be a negative for many farmers that want to invest that type of funding for the future, but we feel that perhaps markets that do a lot of SNAP or EBT transactions may go on board with that. So I just wanted to give you that little overview, and this is our team. We have Javier and Brian helping out in the office. My last day working is July 31st. If you do have any additional questions, there are some people to contact there on the slide, Michelle Wilkins or Nancy Magana-Benoit in the department. We'll be more than happy to follow up with any questions you may have. We've had a really fun and exciting year, and I think we have laid a good groundwork for the future going forward. Thank you. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll turn it over to San Francisco.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Greta Pallavicini with the San Francisco WIC program. And today we will be sharing some innovative approaches to the Farmers Market Nutrition program taken by our agency to help us serve San Francisco WIC families during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so just starting with a short summary of our agency profile, we currently serve around 8,500 families on a monthly basis. And about 50% of our participants are either monolingual Spanish or Cantonese speaking. We have 7 WIC clinic locations throughout San Francisco. And for the 2020 Farmers Market Nutrition Program, and for this season, we received 1,500 booklets to be distributed. Due to the current pandemic that we're living in, we created a partnership between public and private organizations to help us distribute a farmers market produce box to San Francisco WIC families using the FMP booklets we received. Our partners in this project are 2 of the largest farmers market in San Francisco. One of them is Heart of the City Farmers Market, and the other one is Alimany Farmers Market. We also partner with the nonprofit humanitarian organization CARE, the food delivery service DoorDash, and the San Francisco Department of Public Health, which also houses the WIC program. So our Farmers Market Nutrition Program team consists of 11 team members from the various organizations, and all of them are involved in the planning of the logistics that are in the various steps to make the project happen, as well as the implementation. So we wanted to share a few pictures of all the different members that are currently involved in the project. And you can see that there is many of us that have to make this, that have to come together to make this happen. Okay, so what goes in the farmers market produce box? So we wanted to include fruits and vegetables that are common staples among our communities, while also introducing 1 or 2 new items that will encourage our families to try new fruits and vegetables. Some examples of the common staples, as you can see from the picture, are cabbage, lettuce, sweet potatoes, cucumbers, tomatoes. We had a variety of herbs such as cilantro and parsley. And then we also had berries and a variety of stone fruits. The variety of the produce in the box was slightly different each Saturday because it was based on the produce availability of the market, whatever the farm had available for that Saturday. But for the most part, it remained consistent with the different produce that we just described. So a little bit about the process itself on how this is working. So the first thing that we did is that we needed to qualify families to receive the benefits. And so the first thing that we did is we ran a report using our WIC database system to come up with a list of eligible families that can be potentially interested in receiving the box. In San Francisco, we wanted to prioritize children, families with children between the ages of 2 and 5. And the reason of that is because we already have a different program that allows pregnant moms to be able to purchase fruits and vegetables in addition to their regular WIC benefits. So we thought that farmers market would be a good opportunity to help the families with young children. So we wanted to make sure that the report showed these families. Once we ran the report, we created like a little survey using Microsoft Forms to allow us to collect the data, and we send it out via text to all these families that we created from the report. Within, I would say, like less than 24 hours, we received about 1,000 responses or a little bit more, which was really unexpected for us since this was the first time that we did something like this. So that was very exciting to see. Once we received the responses, the next step was to cross-match the names of the families that are in the list of the responses that we received to make sure that they were active WIC families and that there were not duplicates in the data. Once that list was finalized, the second step was to send a second text to these families to collect information about the delivery. So we wanted to know what is their name, what is their best number to contact them at, the mailing address where they wanted to receive the box. And we also included the nutrition ed component that is a requirement for the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, so they could complete it at the same time while filling out the survey. And the last thing we included was a consent for them to give us permission, give the WIC program permission to share the information with DoorDash, which they will be using it for delivery purposes. Once we receive responses from the second data collection, from the second text, we sent out a final text, which was the third text, to inform families that they will be receiving the box, the produce box, and then we also let them know what date they will be receiving it, which was on a Saturday, and to confirm that they will be home or someone will be home to receive the box. So that was the last and final text we sent to them. Once the responses were received on a weekly basis, we had to cross-match those responses to our list and to the WIC database to make sure that everything was okay, and we could enter the FMP booklet vouchers into the system. After that, we were able to finalize the list and send a confirmed list with names, the family names, the phone numbers, and the address to DoorDash, so they could go ahead and start the process of the grouping for the delivery. So that was done usually on a Friday, and then the same Friday we will receive the report from DoorDash, so we knew which families were going to be assigned to each driver. So there was a little grouping between 9 to 10 families per driver. And lastly, once the list was finalized and then delivery happened on Saturday, on Wednesday of the following week, we will drop off the vouchers at the farmers market so they can be reimbursed. The farmers could be reimbursed.
Hi, I'm Janice, also with the WIC program. Can you see the screen? Okay. No? Okay. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. I don't have control. Okay. Sorry, having a little bit of technical difficulties. Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So this is how a typical Saturday looks like. So our farmer AJ, as you can see in the picture, he brings in 150 boxes to the Alamany Farmers Market each Saturday around 9 a.m. So Door Dashers are scheduled to come pick up the boxes between 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. The drivers have their DoorDash app, which contains the names, phone numbers, and the addresses of our families which they're sending the boxes to on their app. So once they arrive, they pull up to where those two flags are, the driveway. One of our WIC team members and our intern cross-matches the list with the app with the report sent from DoorDash. And once we cross-match those families, the boxes are loaded into the car, and each driver, like Rethel mentioned, usually picks up about 9 to 10 boxes. And the boxes that have not been assigned or delivered by the end of the pickup window, those are reassigned to other drivers, and that support comes from both Care and DoorDash. So we wanted to receive feedback on this pilot to improve upon the future delivery dates. And so we can also learn for future, if we were to do this again in the future. We sent a text to the first 500 families who received the boxes in June, and the second and third round of surveys will be sent at the end of this month and the end of August. So the data that I will share with you in the following slide will contain the information from the responses from the first round of text to the first 500 families. Okay. So the preliminary results, I forgot to mention, we had 10 questions in the survey, and we pulled out a few to share with you today. The first question would be, what did your family enjoy most about the farmers market produce box? And access to more fruits and vegetables, trying more locally grown fruits and vegetables, as well as convenience of produce box being delivered to your house were the top three, and then followed by encouraged family to make healthier choices. The next question, how satisfied were you with the variety of produce in your box? And we had 80% of our responses were either extremely satisfied or satisfied. We did have some families that were neutral, somewhat satisfied, and a few not satisfied. Okay. And the next question, what did you like most about the delivery service of the produce boxes? So the possible responses were able to get the produce at my door, able to receive the farmers market benefits because I have challenges with transportation and or time, did not have to go out during the pandemic, did not have the hassle of carrying heavy produce home. My family was able to try new fruits and vegetables, and we also had an other for families to fill out. And most of the responses for the other were positive, saying that they enjoyed the box. And most of our families, the majority had selected, not the majority, I'm sorry, the top selected response was did not have to go out during the pandemic. Okay. The next question, given the opportunity, would you choose to receive the delivery box again? And 98% of the respondents said yes, that if we were to offer this again, they would be interested, and 2% with 5 respondents said no. And finally, what would you rate your overall experience with farmers market produce box this year? And the majority of our families who answered so far either said excellent or very good. So 70% of our families said that they would rate excellent or very good. And we did have a few that were fair or poor, and we're actually looking at our data, and we're reviewing it to help implement changes for the future Saturdays, so we can continue to provide quality produce and delivery. Okay, so some of the highlights from this pilot project include, this is an innovative approach to utilize farmers market funding. The market matched the benefits, the farmers market benefits available. So each box had a total value of $58. We are able to serve 1,500 families, and also $84,000 worth of produce funded through federal and local revenue distributed supported our farmers during this time. It's been hard for our farmers during the pandemic. And also local gig economy workers were able to connect with work. And finally, our families are able to receive a healthy produce box without having to go out, and it will be delivered to them.
So a few of the lessons learned so far from this pilot program is that one of the first things we quickly realized is that we needed to have both farmers market on board with piloting these new projects, because it was new, not just to them, but also to everyone, all of the different partners that we collaborated with. And for the farmers itself, it meant that they had to change the processes of, their usual business to make sure they're able to modify certain things and accommodate the boxing and delivery of the boxes. So that was something that we encountered. Another thing too is that we realized that we couldn't deliver more than 150 boxes at one time. So every Saturday we were limited to 150 boxes, and that was mainly because of the quality of the produce could be compromised if we ended up having like a longer window for pickup. So we wanted to make sure we kept the produce as fresh as possible. Another challenge or another lesson learned from our end is that given the challenges of parking and even just like driving around in San Francisco, we quickly realized that there were some challenges involved with having drivers coming into the farmers market. The Alemany Farmers Market, which is our pickup location, is a busy market, and parking there can be challenging. So having the drivers come on like in a wave was something that we had to work on, and we also had to keep in mind any traffic and safety issues that this could entail, like to make sure that the project went well. Another one was cross-referencing the different responses that we received from the multiple texts to the WIC database. We started using Microsoft Forms. We thought it was a very quick and easy way to create surveys, but we quickly ended up finding a lot of duplicate data, and we also found that the link was easily shared among WIC families that may not have been on the category that we wanted to target, but also another thing that we noticed was that the link was able to be shared with other people that were not WIC families or WIC enrolled families. So that was one thing that we realized, that the cross-matching to make sure that they were eligible WIC families was time consuming on our end. And so we ended up switching now to SurveyMonkey that allows us to prevent the sharing of the links. So that has been something that we have adjusted in our end. Another thing is having real-time support with the driver dispatch on Saturdays. Sometimes when the drivers do not pick up their assigned boxes, like their 9 or 10 assigned boxes, they are, we quickly need to reassign those boxes to other drivers to make sure that the produce is delivered on time. So sometimes it is a little bit challenging to have DoorDash on support, like the support on hand at that moment. And so that is something that we're working on every week to make sure that we are able to get drivers right away. And the last thing is, because there is limited refrigeration at the farmer's market, we have to make sure that the produce doesn't sit in the heat for too long to make sure that it stays fresh when it's delivered to the families. So that is another thing that our farmer agent has been working on, in making sure that the packing of the boxes is a little bit is changed or modified as we learn from the different Saturdays that we have delivered, and then that we also keep it in a shaded area during the time of pickup. And so those are some of the approaches that we wanted to share with you. Again, this is just like a brief presentation, but please feel free to reach out to us. I provided our contact information on the screen. If you have any question, if you will just want to hear a little bit more about the project, we are expected to complete it by mid-August to have delivered all 1,500 boxes to the families. So we are almost there, halfway there now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Yes, thank you very much for presenting. Those are both such interesting and timely presentations with all the transitions that have been happening in WIC, and a lot of new increased use of electronics and new technology, and then of course the pandemic. There are a couple of questions for each of you. Paula, there was a question about the cost of a terminal.
The cost to the farmer?
Correct.
Or the cost to the farmer, if he wants to go ahead and get set up, it's about $1,000. There's setup fees and then the cost of that, and then that is what we've been told from FIS.
So that one terminal that they get for free bypasses that $1,000 approximate fee?
The state pays that. That is through initial implementation, which was through August 1st. And so we just recently had to get all the farmers equipped that we could, so there'd be no cost to them. So moving forward, to keep that machine, that farmer will not be charged anything. The state will pay for that. But if a brand new farmer wants to become authorized and get a machine after August, well, now he has to pick that cost up himself.
Okay. Is there also a monthly fee to that? I thought I remembered that.
I'm not sure about that. There probably is a monthly fee, but there's also could be transaction fees. We don't have those details right now, but yeah, it wouldn't be necessarily something that we feel farmers would probably be excited about. So, but we'll see. We'll see.
Just to kind of stay on that a little bit, you've talked to so many farmers and farmers markets over the years, and what are you hearing as, just like WIC, there's more transition to electronics and not paper and not checks or not even cash? Do you sense that, this is the cutting edge and that farmers will be more accepting of this and excited? And do you see it as a generational thing? And what observations have you had?
I think what many farmers are excited, and it spans really all age groups. You can make a stereotype. You can say, oh, it's just the younger generation, but we've had success with all age groups of farmers. I think probably in the future there could be another technology, maybe something similar to what's on the phones now to get payment. I can't think of what that's called on your phone, the square. Yeah, something like that. That kind of technology is probably the next wave that will come. But right now, I think farmers were just so excited to have the opportunity, many of them, to get a wireless terminal versus the old paper system where they had to use an online system to validate the checks called WIC. And that was kind of a roadblock for a lot of farmers.
Yeah. Thank you. And then we had a question similar in nature about DoorDash and who covered the fees for DoorDash for the deliveries.
Yes, I can answer that one. So our partner organization, CARE, they are the ones who are providing the funding for covering the cost for DoorDash. They are a organization that is currently right now helping Bay Area counties with food insecurity efforts during the pandemic. And so they were able to be connected with us and provide the funding to make sure that the boxes could be delivered to our families. So it's not coming from the SFTPH WIC program costs, it's actually a funding through the CARE organization.
And I had a question, and I'll go back to the questions that are in the Q&A. So, there's been parallel conversation about online ordering and delivery for WIC foods through grocery stores, and part of the challenge is, the presence at the transaction, which SNAP participants now have ways to get their food without that. Did the participant have to be present or do anything with the DoorDash driver when they received their box? How was the delivery made?
So usually we just requested the family or somebody in the family to be home, just because we had to make sure that the produce was fresh enough so they could just take it out, take it from the DoorDash delivery person and then put it in the fridge right away. So that was the only portion that we wanted to make sure. There is an option of contactless delivery through DoorDash where the person, the driver can just ring the doorbell and then they can just place the box outside and then the family comes and picks it up. And from the DoorDash end, they usually either send a text message to the family, letting them know that their box is about to arrive, or they can call the family where they can notify them that they're outside to make sure that they can come and pick it up. We wanted to avoid families from the box sitting too long outside.
Right. Okay, great. And Barrett had a question. Since the farmers market program, seasonal one, runs through the end of November, will your participants be able to still receive them?
So right now, because we wanted to make sure that the funding was covered for our all of our boxes, the funding it's going through the end of August. So we wanted to make sure that we could provide all the boxes at that time. So we will be delivering all boxes between now, when we first started in June, all the way through August, to make sure that everybody obtains the benefits right away. The boxes already, has the amount that they need, but we are getting, because this has been a very good project a very good project that is going on so far in the city, we have received additional funding to provide a secondary produce box, and that is coming through the city funding. So we can provide an additional 1,500 boxes to more families to make sure that they are food secure throughout the pandemic. So there will be more families receiving more boxes in August and maybe early September.
And then Barrett had a second question, is will the data be skewed from the redemption report from the state?
I would think so, maybe. I'm not sure, because everybody will be receiving the box. So the redemption for San Francisco for sure will be at about 100. I'm not really sure how that will impact the state data. Maybe that is something that we can take a look at a little bit later. But from our end, we will have almost at a 100% redemption rate.
Gotcha. Paula, there's a follow-up question on just a clarification on the machine. So Teresa's asking, so from now on, if any new farmer wants to register for the machine, they have to cover the $1,000 cost as well, or the state will help cover the cost if they are new?
No, the state will not cover the cost of any farmer that wants to become equipped with the wireless terminal. That ended with our statewide rollout implementation. And the last day that we could do that was approximately, I think, July 20th. So we had to ship all of our terminals out to our authorized farmers. So going forward, they'll have to cover the cost themselves from FIS, through FIS.
All right. And Lucy had a suggestion about perhaps using ice in the box for wilting problems.
Yes, that's something that I think we could definitely talk to our farmer, AJ, who's been helping us with delivering the produce. They've actually been taking other steps to try to keep the produce fresh, like packaging them separately, and just making sure that things are not being crushed. So they're actually taking steps to try to keep the produce as fresh as possible. But the ice is actually, that would be a good option. That would be something that we would have to talk to the farmers about.
And through doing this work, or anybody on the line, has anybody heard of other programs that are doing similar public-private partnerships or innovations like this? Janice and Grethel mentioned another program they have that provides incentives for pregnant women. We had a webinar in May about that, and that's also a really impressive public-private partnership, but it doesn't involve farmers markets. Well, definitely something that innovative funders should think about.
So I think that is all of our questions, if I'm not mistaken.
I see another one here.
Oh, okay.
Paula, Wendy down in LA is wondering, will the FMNP vouchers be on the WIC card next year?
Hi, Wendy. Next year is just around the corner, so I think there could possibly be some pilot activity. There is, you know, actually a national initiative movement toward eFMNP. It would probably be a separate card. It would not be the WIC card, but it could go to an electronic benefit in a couple of years. That has been definitely highly subject of high interest. So we'll see where that goes. But I don't think 2021 will see that.
To the question about other states doing this, we have, or other programs, Melanie from Colorado is saying that in Colorado, we're with a nonprofit and we're working to get them to be a WIC authorized vendor in order to start delivering. All right. And Linda down in Ventura County says she thinks the Senior Farmers Market program might be doing something similar to this.
The Senior Farmers Market in California is not issuing checks this year to seniors because they're more likely not to go to the market this year. So what they've done is they have contracted with farmers to deliver produce boxes, I believe, to direct, I'm not sure of all the logistics, but they are delivering to seniors through directly contracting with farmers. But I can give you the contact information if you want more information about that program.
And then Jana, who works with farmers markets and the Farmers Market Association, she has a really good question. She's curious about FMNP or EWIC and mobile markets and any opportunities that you see on the horizon to involve WIC with mobile farmers markets.
Yes, I think in my presentation I'd mentioned that if the markets are allowed to become authorized and get the wireless technology, then probably a mobile market would qualify as a market. So just stay tuned for that. You should be hearing something about that soon, Jenna.
All right, that's exciting. Okay. Well, I think that is all of our questions.
Okay.
We had we had another, would curbside pickup be an option? I think some farmers markets are just doing that for regular customers. Has anybody heard about that happening for a WIC program?
I believe some of our markets have done that. The farmer or the market will open up, excuse me, some like an online ordering, and the person can pay with their WIC FMNP coupons at the delivery site, curbside. I believe that is happening in some locations.
Okay, yeah, Samar's saying that that's happening with some farmers in LA. And Wendy backs that up with PHFE WIC. So, all right, it's called the WIC box. Can always leave it to WIC staff to be ingenious and innovative, especially in these times. Nothing stops WIC. So, I don't see any other questions. We had a couple other slides we just wanted to mention. If Sarah wanted to just move, if you want to just move to those slides.
Sure, yeah. I'm just going to give a brief reminder to everyone to look out in your email tomorrow for your evaluation, to complete your evaluation so you can get your certificate. And I have a note here to use Chrome on your computer when you're completing your evaluation. So I guess it's been problematic with other browsers. And when you receive the link to the recording, feel free to share far and wide. And then here is our website where you can access recordings of our webinars after, after the fact. They get posted on our website. So you should receive a link in your email, but also you can look for it on our website in the future under our WIC Works webinars. If you are viewing a recording of this webinar in the future and you want to request an evaluation and a certificate, please email Megan at msadler@calwic.org. So MSADDLER@calwic.org. She's the one who handles our certificates and CEUs. As we mentioned, this is the third webinar addressing access to fruits and vegetables in grocery stores, farmers markets, and healthcare settings, focusing on programs and resources that incentivize purchases for SNAP and WIC. And with our partners, California Breastfeeding Coalition and CDPH, we recently provided 2 webinars on early feeding. Recordings of those webinars are available on our WIC Works page on our website, WIC Works Webinars Events page. Wanted to talk about a few other opportunities. So you're welcome to join the California Breastfeeding Coalition Learn community, which is a private Facebook group where they're having important conversations. And finally, I wanted to share about our conference that's coming up in August soon. So you're invited to attend our California WIC Association virtual conference and trade show. It's going to be from August 24th to 28th. The theme this year is Empowered Young Families Unite, Inspire, and Uplift. And we're having speakers that are addressing racism and implicit bias, breastfeeding, infant feeding, findings and adaptations for COVID, and more. The trade show and CE units will also be part of the event, just like they are every year, even though it's virtual this year. So please join us for that. And I think that's all I've got.
Well, thanks everybody for attending, but I do want to give a big shout out to our panelists for presenting today. Everybody is very busy, of course, these days in WIC, but I also want to say congratulations to Paula on a really successful career. She is retiring on Friday, and she has the honor of saying she's really impacted young families throughout her career, and that's really something nice to be able to say as you think about what you have done with your career choice as a public health nutritionist. So thank you, Paula, for your years of service and leadership. And thank you, Grethel and Janice, for being with us today, and all of the participants. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye. Have a good rest of your day.